Google. Let's go get them again.
Welcome to another episode of Samplin Samples. Today we are delving into the brand of Guerlain and part of L'Art et la Matière lineup, which is kind of obvious here. One of my favorite lineups of all time. This one is a peach-based fragrance called Pêche Mirage. So it is a recent addition to L'Art et la Matière. It's definitely getting hit over the head right now with poor reviews. So it's going to be intriguing to see my thoughts on this one. I'm actually on the other side of the coin. You know, we're not always going to get a Cuir Beluga. We're not always going to get a Spiritueuse du Bleu. We're not always going to get a Tonka Imperial. We're not always going to get, in my personal opinion, home runs from a brand. It's just not going to happen. However, I feel sometimes brands like this and Dior and Chanel at times get almost overly criticized by their own fan base, honestly. These are people that I run Fluent with. Obviously, I'm not an influencer, but I'm kind of in the middle of things. Like I try to be, you know, I review stuff like that I shouldn't be reviewing, like Invictus and 1 Million, stuff like that. Sometimes there's some good and sometimes it's where it's supposed to be. But obviously a lot of my friends within the community, the people that I you know, speak about perfume the most with are people that love niche, indie, high-end perfume, things like that. And obviously, you know, sometimes in that little group, when we're in group chats, it's always like people are high-fiving each other going, yeah, this sucks. Yeah. We're high-fiving each other, saying and parroting the exact same things to each other. And sometimes you just kind of sit back and kind of wear a sample and wear it for several days and form your own kind of opinion on a thing. It doesn't have to be a 10. And it doesn't have to be a 0 either, right? Polarizing ends, right? I hate it, I love it. It's like there's no middle ground sometimes in this perfume game. So hopefully I ground Pêche Mirage a little bit. You know, most of the reviews are pretty bad. There is some positive ones, but I think the most of the reviews are very negative on this fragrance. However, if you know me, you know I beat to my own drum. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to co-sign everybody else and be on the same train. I build my own path. My nose has smelt a lot of things. I trust in my own nose. I believe that I do help out people, and that's why I have the YouTube channel. If I didn't help out people, I don't know where I would be. So yeah, I'm not immune to what the community thinks as a whole of a perfume. I hate when reviewers kind of say, they start a review by saying, oh yeah, I never smelt it. I know nothing. I heard nothing. Okay, well, if you love perfume, you are always getting smashed over the head with information about perfume, even if you want it or not. You're going to go on Fragrantica, you are going to go on Perfumo, you are going to go on Base Notes, you are going to speak to other perfume heads, you're going to talk about new releases, things like that. It's not like I'm going to go la 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 la. No, garbage. Yes, Obviously, I've heard what's going on with this fragrance. So if you love perfume, you are going to get hit with it. So is this a flop, right? And again, like for this price tag, you could say, like, again, the Roja Doves, Clive Christians, Guerlain's even, right? L'Art et la Matière fragrances are very expensive, extremely expensive. So, right, is this going to be, in my personal opinion, I drained my sample so I could tell you with confidence now. Is it like if you're starting new to the L'Art et la Matière, would this be my first choice? Absolutely not. Would it be my first 5, my first 5 choices? Most likely not. It would be my first 10. Most likely not. However, this is a line that is it's one of my favorite lines of all time. So, is this going to take Tonka Imperial? Is it going to take Spiritueuse du Bleu, Angélique Noire, among others? No, absolutely not. Those are classics. Those are things. And, Peach, for me, I'm synonymous for saying this on my channel, is that it's like the one fruity note that kind of smells feminine to me. So let's get into it before we get into anything. I got to tell you, if you're new here, welcome to the Rogues Only channel. I'm your host, Mark. hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, first of all, for all my work. I spent good money on this. I think it was $15 American for this sample. So if you convert that to Canadian, because I'm Canadian, with tariffs and everything, it was $400. So I almost could have bought a bottle. I'm joking. But your like is free, and I edit my own videos. I do all the homework. I do all the work myself. I shoot the videos. It takes, you know, 4 to 5 hours, give or take, every samples, honestly, from start to finish, maybe even more. And I appreciate your little, that's it. That's all you need to do. But if you're new here, I am no nonsense, right? I don't go with the wave. I don't care. If I like it, I'm going to tell you. And I sample from really high-end stuff like this to women's fragrances, men's fragrances, niche, indie, all that stuff. So let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats on this one. Released, I'm going to say 2025. The nose behind this is Delphine Jelk. She is doing a lot more fragrances for Guerlain now. It looks like the training wheels have fell off on Delphine, and Wasser is finally in semi-retirement mode. We'll see. I still see his name penned on some fragrances from time to time, but I don't think I've seen his name on anything new. I might be wrong. I'm not a huge, right? I'm not huge onto stats and that, but I would like to take a look at what he has done last. So let's take a look at the note breakdown. Let's see what we get. Up top, we got peach, blackcurrant, and saffron. In the middle, we got osmanthus. Now, osmanthus is a note that will give out peachy facets. It's known for its apricot feel. It's also known for its leathery nuances, which you do get leather in the background. Talking about the background, let's look at the base notes: sandalwood, amber, and leather. Big notes to my nose. This is a fairly thin fragrance. You're gonna get most of these notes. I think the one note that I really didn't get personally, which is weird now looking at it, is amber. Everything else I got. So the big notes would have to be peach, osmanthus. We'll put them as separates because osmanthus is giving me several facets in this thing, so we'll give it that, and leather. So it's a peach leather based fragrance. And the thing is with the peach, this is not your typical peach. Peach is very popular in the women's aisle. And you're gonna get a lot of synthetic peaches. You're gonna get some that smell like candy. You're gonna get some that smell like an authentic peach. But you're gonna get a lot of fruity florals that smell like peach. It can kind of turn you off of the note. And also this is like a little stranger, so it's a little different than your typical. So it may really alienate a lot of peach lovers because it's not your typical peach note, in my personal opinion. So now I've worn this as my scent of the day. I've worn it for a few days now. And let's see what I get. A little dab action here. And also, just to kind of show you a little bit, these little strips here, if you ever buy these, you know, sometimes you see people spray like the thin line and go, oh yeah, this is the official way of doing it. No. This is what it's meant for. That. So you can smell most raw materials, things like that. You can just go like that in small sample size, and that's what this thin piece is for. The larger, right, you can write down what you're basically smelling. But if you're spraying, I spray the fat end, by the way. Let's launch this sucker. We're all done. So time to launch it. Kobe. It went under the door. Win. Win-win. Yeah, peach ain't my thing, but there's something in this one. I immediately get hit with this fuzzy peach quality. But why do I say fuzzy? Because it's more the outside than the actual juicy, ripe fruit. It's not watery. It's not super sweet, but there is some sweet nuances. So it's not your candied, sweet peach. It's absolutely different kind of peach of what I've smelt in the women's aisle, especially in the designer game, things like that, right? The leather's coming out now, so the leather's, it's nice. Okay, so going to go into this dry, fruity, leathery imagery. This is where this is kind of going. And I dig that. I love that about this fragrance. And that's where it could U-turn for a lot of perfume heads that love this fruity, right, super juicy, peach kind of fragrances, where this leather comes in and just like, ooh, dries it out a little bit. So it's going into that territory. The leather in here also goes up in volumes and goes down in volumes, which is something that, of course, with testing that you would notice. Right, if you're wearing it just once, you may not notice it, but I noticed that like the peach doesn't move. It stays put, but the leather keeps moving up and down in volumes to show more peach or less peach, depending. So you, maybe on some wearings, you'd be like, oh yeah, I lost the peach. It's more leather now. And oh, there it is again. So I do like that kind of nuance that the leather's moving. It's a moving target and the peach is not. It's staying put. Now, I absolutely get the black currant. So that is one thing that I absolutely love. It's a secondary note in here. So it's not a primary. I've seen these tricks done before with perfumiers where they use 2 fruit notes or 2 citruses, whichever, and they use one as a primary, but they use something else, another fruity note, to enhance the primary fruity note. So it's not, it's so well done by Delphine that it's just like, what is going on here? I do get a little bit of the berry vibe, and I don't think I'm supposed to, but I do, but it's behind the peach. So it gives the peach, what it does, it just gives it tartness. Like I've seen this kind of trick before done with a grapefruit note, where something tart would be right behind it to give the grapefruit its tartness, or put a bergamot behind it to give it some brightness. But it doesn't smell like bergamot. It's melded together. And this is where I go with the black currant. Now the black currant also can give out, of course, green nuances, and you do get that as well. If you have a good nose, a lot of good noses are gonna be like, I smell some green in here. And I believe that's from that. And of course, black currant can give off woody aspects as well. And it does here as well. So even though the peach is dry in this place, I felt the black currant gave it some fruity nuance and some brightness up top, and it gave it some tartness, and it kind of gave it a 3-dimensional feel, because the peach itself had this exterior of a peach. So the peach itself turns out being bright fruity, and it balances itself with kind of like a dry peach skin with the fuzz, and eventually you lose the brightness altogether. So obviously the black currant starts losing its mojo, and the fruity nuances kind of step away a little bit. The osmanthus kind of picks it up a little bit for the peach and the apricot vibe, but it's a very dry thought of a peach here. So the peach, the black currant combo is masterclass by Jelk, personally. When I smelt this, like right off the bat, I obviously knew about the hate of the brand of the fragrance, not the brand, the fragrance itself, by purists. And I was just like, okay, right? And peach is not my favorite note. So I already knew it wasn't gonna be like a top 10, Laude la matière for me personally, just because of personal taste, right? Basically everything here probably beats it. I can't see it trumping any of these. But these are master classes here, like for me personally, as my personal taste. So the peach and the blackcurrant combo is very good. I love when perfumiers utilize 2 fruity nuances, but play with the volumes to really emphasize one. That's where I kind of got sold on Pêche Mirage a little bit. I was just like, okay, this is not just the peach leather and video here. And it could be easy as that. That is the major facet, but you want to dissect the thing a little bit as a reviewer, right? Now that peach as a whole has not really been overly accepted by me until I smelled tons of them with my decanting site, I always portrayed the note of peach as the typical fruity floral, fruity portion of a fruity floral in the women's aisle of a bad feminine fragrance. So it felt feminine as a fruity note. It shouldn't feel that way, of course not, but other fruity notes don't make me feel that way. A strawberry, a raspberry, you put that in a fragrance and I'm not going to feel a certain way. However, peach did. And the past 2 years, the note started rounding out more to me back where it belongs as genderless, because that's the way it should be. So now, you know, as much as I was grinding my teeth when I smelt a peach-based fragrance or a fragrance with peach in it, and I was almost working a little harder on a fragrance like that than typical fragrance reviews, because that note gave me that kind of concept. And it could be something that I smelt when I was young, something like that. Every single note can give you certain feelings as a fragrance head, right? Some people don't like vetiver because of a certain thing, right? And you know, maybe somebody that wore vetiver hit them a few times. I don't know, something like that. So it has that, some notes kind of have like almost that aspect that you almost have to kind of block that piece. And I think now, where I'm at now, you know, it's in my perfume Rolodex and it doesn't give me that thought process, at least not now. However, the leather in here does help this thing up a little bit, honestly. So at times the peach towards the mid here went almost to a peach tea kind of vibe to me. Think having a peach tea, right? And walking into an Hermes boutique. And you walk into the Hermes store and then the security guy goes, no food and drink, and steals your tea. But jokes aside, yeah, you have like a peach tea and you're looking at buying those beautiful Hermes purses. You can smell the suede, you can smell the leather nuances. Actually, come to think of it, this smells more Hermes to me than a Guerlain, if you really want my thoughts. So the peach, in a nutshell, is done right. It's tart, it's smooth, and it's well done. It's realistic to my nose, and that's very important for this price tag, versus, of course, many synthetic peachy scents. The thing that gets me is the peach skin. I smell the fuzzy peach skin. The peach itself is kind of unripe, just not overflowing with juices just yet, but you can start smelling a little of the fruit. It just kind of needs like another 24 hours. And then you can basically, you know, you're gonna get the best out of the fruit. The peach itself gets drier the more it's on skin. So again, you're gonna lose those, I don't want to say those wet nuances, but the blackcurrant kind of gives it the fruitiness. You're going to kind of lose that a little bit. The OSMANTHUS is the star of the show here. There's no ifs, and or buts here. It's fantastic. It's not one of the best in the game. I've smelled better, but it's still fantastic. Now, if you don't know OSMANTHUS, this is one of the select few perfumes that show a well-rounded part of this note. OSMANTHUS as a note, you may or may not know, gives off a peachy vibe. It's mostly kind of like apricot-like. At its best, it's a beautiful apricot note. Also, it can be a little sweet, so you may get a little bit of a honeyed sweetness. And that would be probably the best way to describe the sweetness of OSMANTHUS, is honeyed. And it's here, but it's not as prominent as I've smelt in other perfumes, where the apricot / honeyed sweetness is mega. It's big. OSMANTHUS also pairs well with leather notes, and for the reason is because it smells, OSMANTHUS smells like leathery suede quality. Now, the leather nuance from this note is never animalic or smoky from OSMANTHUS. It never is, which works well in this perfume because this is not that. Also, OSMANTHUS can give a scenty, creamy profile, which I felt a little bit here in the mid to the deeper dry down. So here in the mid, it's OSMANTHUS heavy, apricot meets leather. The leather, soft. I wouldn't call it suede-like because it does have some moments where I feel some growl, but it's certainly not cade oil or smoky or birch tar-like, where you're going to get those heavy leathery nuances which can just dominate a scent. No, this is not what this is at all. It's a softer leather. Now, if the leather was just a little tad softer, I think this scent may have lost me as being bottle worthy, honestly. But it has just a tad of interest here for me. Just because it does have a little bit, when you go deep into this fragrance, when you start smelling your hand a little bit more, you can smell a little bit of the burnt tire kind of leather, but you gotta dig. You gotta dig in on this one for that. It's a more of a suede, like if you're just smelling it on a strip or smelling it on your skin. It does have a little bit of personality and it comes out a little bit and you're like, oh, this is maybe gonna roar a little bit. No, it's not. It's not, but you dig in, there's like a little quiet storm in there. And I didn't speak much about the saffron just because it gives its piquant in the mid, but that's pretty much it. It's a soft secondary note. Same with sandalwood. The sandalwood also plays a minor role here. It's going to show more of itself in the back end of Pêche Mirage, but that's pretty much it. And the amber, I got a little bit of sweetness, but I think it's from more of the peachy vibe than anything else. So at the end of the day, I think those are very minute pieces of this whole puzzle. I felt the leather, or AKA the suede, gives a little bit of powdery pieces here and there towards the end. So keep that in mind if you don't like a little bit of powder. I wouldn't call this a powdery scent at all. It's not big, but it's worth mentioning if I'm getting a little bits and pieces here, just to let you know what you're getting and what you're getting yourself into as well. So overall, Pêche Mirage is an osmanthus dominant scent with peach and leather as your primary. Well blended, yep. Pleasant scent that I really enjoyed wearing. I came in thinking this is probably not going to be my speed. It's going to be one of the worst Laurie Lamatiales, but it surprised me. I like it a lot more than I thought. And the more I tested it, the more I liked it. The more I was like, this almost has like a Jean-Claude Elena Hermes feel to me, which, as you know, from watching me over the years, is an absolutely good thing. Now, if you put that in an Hermes Essence bottle, you could have fooled me, honestly. It wouldn't be like a top, like again, like going against this roster and the Hermes Essence roster, you're going against the big boys. Like these are, to me, some of the pinnacles in perfumery as far as modern lines. Hermes Essence, the Chanel Les Exclusifs in this, when you have a fragrance that's not a 10, it's almost a disappointment. So putting it in a bottle like this or an Hermes Essence bottle, it doesn't really matter. It's still going to be at the tail end of the line. But does it feel out of place? That's kind of like the feel. Does it feel out of place? No, but it's probably one of the weaker ones out of the bunch. Yeah, 100%. Now let's get into Seasons, Day, Night, Versatile, and Performance. Seasons, this is a tweener through and through. I feel like the leathery nuances with the peach kind of go hand in hand. It will go well in overcast and fluctuating weather. So spring and fall, the tweener seasons are perfect for this kind of thing. Sure, it can be ultra versatile and you can wear it during the winter months or the summer months. I'm sure you can pull it off. It's not too dense as a fragrance, so I think like a cool summer night could be, pulled off. As far as day or night, scratch the nighttime thing because I think it's more of a daytime scent. It's kind of one of those fragrances that I feel is more like daytime for me. Versatility above average. Could technically be someone's signature scent, kind of. Like I might be pushing it a little bit, but it's pretty darn close. It's kind of an easy wear to wear. Performance. This is where, as a fragrance reviewer, there's things that are in the back of your mind. Performance versus, again, the price, the quality, all that. And these are things that'll be no-goes for a lot of people. Price, this is going to be, high price tag. It's Laurie Lamatière, right? It's going to be a no-go for a lot of people. That's going to get rid of like 80% of people. Unless it's magic on your skin, you're not going to buy it. Performance is another thing. This did not perform greatly. It's not a beast. So longevity was only 5 to 7 hours. And I say only, it was actually not bad, right? What I'm looking for in a fragrance is 7 to 9. So obviously it's lacking in that kind of department. So we gotta look at it. It's something that you gotta look at. However, is that like really poor performance? You know, I've seen worse, of course. And do you really need to wear one fragrance for 10 hours, right? That is, you know, a really good question. Honestly, do you? And the projection is fairly average. But we have to point these things out for people that are looking at this kind of stuff. So performance, she's a weaker one. Yeah, she is. So at the end of the day, my final thoughts. Pêche Mirage, you know, hated by purists. I could just see it now if I was in a group chat of like a whole bunch of purists probably high-fiving each other right now saying how shitty this is. How Guerlain is falling apart. Anyway, my final thoughts are this. This has a little bit of an Hermes feel to it, and that's kind of a compliment to it, which is, yeah, I feel like if I was blindfolded and I smelt this, I would think Hermes essence. And I'm pretty sure, if my Rolodex serves me right, Elena did make an OSMANTHUS based release for Hermes essence. I don't own it. Actually, I don't think I've smelt it in the store. I haven't smelt it. It was OSMANTHUS Yunnan, I believe. I need to sniff that one. I gotta put that on my to sniff list. So back to Pêche. And Pêche gets a lot of backlash for several reasons. First of all, women that like their typical juicy peach may hate this. The leathery nuance may be too much for some people. It's leaning too masculine, it's leaning too daring for some. Honestly, for me, it's not that. It's definitely not too daring. The Guerlain purist, right? They're going to discredit this as where's the Guerlainade that we're used to? Where's the magic? Is it too expensive for what you get? Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, but really, I see the artistic vision here, where maybe a lot of people didn't see it. I think it's a good one. I think it's surprisingly, you know, there's fragrances that surprise me, and then there's ones that actually surprise me and kind of sway the way I was kind of programmed to say things. And, you know, and there's a lot of things. There's a lot of red flags. Pricing's super high. Is it one of the best from the line? Well, you look at the line, man, this is this is a crazy looking line. Personally, for me, there's a lot of 9s and 10s here. There might be an 8 or a 7 here and there, but there's a lot of 10s and 9s beside me here, which kind of brings down the stock of it, right? Because you're looking at it against its own company here, its own family, and it can't crack a top 10. What are we doing here? But we have to look at what's beside me. So giving it a score, this score surprised me, so it's gonna surprise you. It's not a 10, no, it's not a 9, no, forget that. However, it's an 8. I'm at that point that Pêche Mirage, and again, an 8 is exactly what I state in my reviews all the time. It's one of those fragrances that I do want to get a bottle, not in a rush to get a bottle. I may get it in a throw-in in a mega haul. I'm not looking to pay full retail. I'm not looking to get a full bottle. However, if a partial comes in, that somebody has it on Facebook, 50 mils of it, right? That's all I need. I don't need 200 mils. I don't need 100 mils. I don't need to pay $500 for it. And they're selling that for high 100s, low 200s, and they have something else that I want, right? I'm not gonna put in a whole bunch of effort to get Pêche, but I would throw it in. That's where it's at. And that could take several years, right? There's some fragrances that take me a very long time to get because I have these strict rules. An 8 is an 8. It's exactly where it's gonna slot in, where you're not, either A, you're never gonna see it on my channel ever, because I'm a patient man, and I am not going to sway the way I feel about it. Like I've graded it now. Like this is exactly where I want it. I don't need 200 mils. I don't need 100 mils. It's not gonna be one of my favorites of all time, but I like the artistic style of this one. And I could see this one getting axed by the brand, honestly. And that's probably where I'm gonna kind of grab it, like right before it gets axed. Somebody's gonna be selling a partial of it and boom, snatch it up, boom, done. 200 bucks, gone. And I think it would be worthy of that. because it's an 8. It's not a 5. It's not a 4. I think the real magic out of this fragrance is not this is a peach leather. Like if you're just looking at face value, I think digging black currant, what that does, what the OSMANTHUS is doing, are the pieces that are magical in this one. So now that you heard my take, I'd love to see yours in the comments below. Good, bad, and the ugly. Again, this is probably quote unquote a polarizing fragrance review because I'm not going with the purists. I don't have to. I believe in my own nose. And if I start my channel by just doing what everybody else says, might as well just shut down the channel. That's just my thoughts. It's not a 10. Is it crazy expensive for what you get? Absolutely. Is there an artistic side of this fragrance that people are missing? Absolutely. So there is some positive and negatives to look at, but I'd love to see those comments below. I'm sure that most of them are going to be more negative than positive. But it'd be nice to see a little mix of everything. And as always, a great pour fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your scent wisely. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a good one.